Your Town Matters is funded by the Government of Canada through the Local Journalism Initiative and supported by Cactus Media, Canada's independent community television association.
Welcome to Your Town Matters. I'm Natalie Sturgeon. My guest today is Eastern Charlotte Mayor John Craig. Thanks for sitting down with me today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
We're going to start with Blacks Harbour's water supply.
Sure.
The repairs were scheduled to be done, I think, sometime in the last couple of weeks. What is the status of those repairs and the water quality in the community?
Well, as of today, today is what?
October 30th.
It's October 30th. This coming weekend, they're going to be doing those repairs. Everything was held off again, and the weather forecast looking good for this weekend, and they're supposed to do those repairs this weekend. Right after that, the schedule to do the reservoir, which Connor Brothers owns that as well. They have a schedule for that to be totally cleaned out as well too at the same time, right afterwards. So once that's done, we will have it scheduled probably to do another flushing of the lines, and then we'll do the we'll schedule our reservoir inside the Blacks Harbor to be cleaned as well. So that's the next plans.
Okay, so what are the new dates of the repairs then?
The November 2nd and 3rd, which is this coming Saturday and Sunday. So that is supposed to be done this weekend. The weather forecast is looking good, and I'm going to make sure that they hold to that this weekend. So we're running out of time as we get into the colder weather, and it's imperative that it does get done. The sooner the better, because we've got to get to the root of all the issues going on at Blacks Harbor. It's definitely a priority of council. It never not been a priority, and the council wants this done as soon as possible. But at the same time, Connor Brothers owns it and operates it, so we have to work with them on their timelines.
Right, and so the flushing will obviously maybe cause some boil water advisories. People should be aware of that.
It could. I don't think the flushing would do that. Probably the changing of the line where they fix the lines that may cause it to. So we'll have to, when they do the repairs, they'll have to test the water again, and then and then send the test off. If it has to be a boil order, then the province will make that final determination.
Right, and in the press release, the last press release you gave to CHCO, you mentioned that you guys are doing a study, I think, for a new water supply.
That's correct.
What is the status of that?
Okay, Englobe is doing that, and as this morning, I had a quick meeting this morning before I came here, and they're still having issues trying to find a suitable water supply that can do Blacks Harbor. They've been finding water, but not enough to be able to supply Blacks Harbor. So they're having issues with that at this point. So I guess that's where that is at this moment. It's still being worked on, and I know it's a slow going, but we follow up on it on a weekly basis to follow, see where they're at. But they are having troubles with that.
Okay. Councillor Adam Hatt is obviously very passionate about advocating for his community members and their water quality.
Yep.
He spoke out at the last meeting. You said in previous interviews with me and with Vicky that things can't be fixed quickly. How are you going to reassure the public that while this is a long kind of solution that needs to be done over time, is there a plan to have them water that they can rely on and trust in the future? Like
I say, it takes time, but the reason it takes time is because it takes money. And so I guess what we have to do is pinpoint your water, what is going to be the water source. That's number one, which are at the moment they're having troubles. Once they do have a water source, and then you have to price out your lines to get into Blacks Harbor. It's approximately 4 to 5 kilometers of pipeline has to be to be brought into the harbor. So you got to get the cost of that. You probably have to get a water treatment plant as well too. We'll have to build. And maybe look at maybe a new reservoir too. If we find out the other ones are getting aged, we'll probably have to look at the age of those and get those replaced. There's 2 of them that we have to look at, and then we go back, and then you start looking at the lines that are actually in the harbor themselves too. You have to look at the age of those too, which are actually newer than the ones on the outside. So it will take time, but it takes money, but at the same time, once you get it all priced out, exactly what we need, after we find the source, we go to the province, we go to the federal government, and we get them on board, which I'm pretty sure they'll be there. I know the province has been saying right from the get-go, we're here to help, and we're going to make sure it gets done, but they have to get all the source and the waters and the pricing in place first.
Adam actually thanked you for sharing the step-by-step process that's going to be happening, I think, on your Facebook. Do you think that communication, that open, transparent communication, is part of the trust-building process in the water supply?
Oh, absolutely, 100%, absolutely. And I always say, call me if you have any issues, or call Adam, or call any of the councilors for that matter. Like I had I won't mention names, but a few people on the main street of Blacks Harbor, they got together and they had concerns. So what I did one day, I got the manager, I got myself, I got the deputy mayor, we went to their house, we sat down, I said, look, ask me every question you want to ask. We're not going to leave your living room until we answer every question you've got. And we did that. We probably spent a couple hours at their house, and she brought a couple other people in for the meeting. And I'd rather do that than have a big open meeting in a hall, because what happens when you do that, sometimes you get people yelling and screaming, and people get worked up and frustrated. I find working one-on-one with people and taking the time to talk and be cool about it and answer every question. I said, I'm not going to leave I told them, I'm not going to leave this house until I answer every question you've got. So between Jason, myself, and the deputy mayor at that meeting, it worked out really well, and they were quite confident, and they were happy that we took the time to do that. And I'm willing to do more of that too as well. So if people want me to come to their house and or a smaller venue, then I'd be more than happy to do that.
Okay. I'm going to turn to the YMCA daycare facility.
Yeah, sure.
Childcare has been a priority for your community. What have been the obstacles to achieving a daycare facility?
Money.
Okay. And in terms of that money, what are we talking about for to build a facility,
Yeah.
spaces, that sort of thing? Where's the money question here?
Oh, well, the money question is where this is at the moment is that we've had the first prices that we've got came to over $2 million to build this. The province is only willing to give us about $1 million. The municipality, that's kind of rich for us. It's still $1 million short, and you have to remember that child care is not a mandate of municipalities. It's a mandate of the province and federal government, not our mandate. So for us to put $1 million into a building like that is quite steep. I'm not saying we won't do it, but I'm just saying it's still quite steep at the moment. So we've gone back and we've asked local people that do building of houses and that sort of thing too to give us a price. We think we can get a better pricing and try to get that price down maybe closer to $1 million or shortly over $1 million. And if that's the case, or even $1.5 million, then we're getting pretty close. And then we probably can do it, and maybe with some fundraising as well too. We're going to supply the land and the water and sewage and all that sort of thing too. So we're quite willing to do that as far as the municipality. But for us to go a full $1 million in debt, it's quite a bit for us to take on at this point. We have to remember we have other things we have to do too, which are in our mandate too. We probably need a brand new fire hall, a new municipal building. That's going to cost a lot of money. That's something we really need bad, to get a centralized fire hall, and that's something we've got to be working on and working towards. We have to replace fire trucks, we have to replace roads and work on sidewalks and water systems. That's our mandate. Child care is not our mandate, and we're kind of being forced into it. So not saying we won't do it, but I say we have to try to keep the prices down as low as we can so that we can do it.
Have you brainstormed the possibility of a building that already exists in any of the communities in Eastern Charlotte?
Yeah, we've looked at it, but I think where we own this piece of land, that's probably the better way to go with a new type of building. We're pretty confident. We're confident that the local people that do the building will be able to come in with a better price.
I want to turn quickly to budget. What currently are you mentioned the fire hall and a new municipal building, but what are your budget priorities that you think might be happening this year?
Budget priorities, there's the council really hasn't got into the weeds with this as of yet. We're going to be working on that over the next month or so, and I have to talk to all the councilors because each one has a different ward area, different needs, and that sort of thing too. But the biggest thing for me is to try to get the equity in the fair taxation system, whereas we got so many different areas getting different tax rates, and we've got to try to make that. Try to get them more in line so they're fairly close to being the same, and same way with Blacks Harbour and St. George. The goal, and I don't think that's all going to happen this year. It's probably going to take another year or so, but we've got to work towards that. We don't want any big spikes in the tax rates for anybody, so we've got to work it so that we try to get them all in line so that everybody is more, like I say, is more fair, more equitable, and people will like it that we have it try more of a fair system. So.
Right. That leads me to my next question. St. Andrews is also kind of dealing with this process, and one of the discussions they had was, maybe we go line by line to determine what services Bayside and Shamcook might get. How are you going to develop a rubric to distribute that fairness in terms of the tax rate?
How are we going to do it? I'll have to leave that for council this over the next month or so to see what services we're going to be having. I guess there's nothing really new. You have to remember that everybody in Eastern Charlotte is paying for the fire departments. Everybody's paying for council. Everybody's paying for a mayor. Everybody's paying for your staffing. Everybody's paying for insurances. There's a lot of things that people didn't have to pay before that they are now paying for, and that's because of the amalgamation. So it's a dirty word, amalgamation, but it's all because of it. And we didn't set that up. The province set that up, and we're trying to work through it and trying to make it so that it's more fair for everybody.
So in St. George, Blacks Harbour, Beaver Harbour.
That's right.
Do you see any mill rates going up, down? What do you foresee?
I don't want to get anybody excited at this point. Council really hasn't got into it yet at this point, so I don't want to get anybody calling me up and say, what are you doing this for? And because council really, I want to be fair to council. Council really hasn't had a lot of time to discuss it. We haven't got a preliminary numbers at this point, but over the next month or so, starting next week, that's our first priority is going into the budget. And like I say, we have to look at all the different departments, what all the different department needs. Whereas fire departments, they need new jaws of life. Then they're going to need a plan of what trucks have to be replaced, because the insurance companies tell us what trucks have to be taken out of the service. Public Works, we have to look at do we need new trucks? Do we need whatever we need for equipment? We always have to keep things up, so we have to look at the whole budget all together for every department, and they say there's child care thing coming in that'll be part of the budget as well too, and there are probably other things coming along too that I've forgotten, but.
How are you balancing as a council the lack of fiscal reform as you move into budget season?
How do we balance it?
Yeah, how do you kind of make sure that things are fair and equitable, given that you only have one pot of money to pull from?
Well, I think the easiest answer to that is council has to work on it together as a team, which they are. They're working very well together. If there's an issue that comes up, then we sit down, we hash it out together as a group, and Council has to, at the end of the day, whether you like the final decision or not, you're still a council, and you still come out united at the end of the day. You may not get everything you want. That's politics, but we have to keep striving to work together. That's the key here.
Okay.
Yeah.
At the last council meeting, there was a significant discussion about the intersection at Chapel Hill. some people felt that not doing anything would make the situation worse. A four-way stop didn't seem like the right option. Can you talk to me about that intersection and sort of what the community is experiencing there?
Yeah, it's all different, because no matter who you talk to, you're going to get a different answer. Some people say there's no problems. You've reduced the speed limit along that street. It's been reduced to 30 kilometers. That should be solved the problem. I haven't seen any major accidents along there. We haven't had anything reported to us as major, but I've been told there's been a lot of close calls there. It's just a matter of people have to slow down. They have to look, and I know around that corner they removed a lot of the bushes, and the line of sight's all been taken care of. At this point, council was trying to make that corner safer. They got a report back, and this is putting the 4 stop signs in was probably the cheapest way to go. And but we've got a lot of people who sent letters to us or sent me letters that were against it. So council decided not to go towards that way and just keep the status quo at this point.
Well, and they talked about a traffic light too, which sounded extraordinary. I think 225,000 was the number.
Yeah.
That's not, I mean, even in St. Andrews, that's not an option. I wonder how difficult it is to try to find a solution to a situation like that, where some people, you said, don't have an issue at all, but other people do.
Yeah, some people. I guess they'll have to go back to the Public Safety Committee, and they're going to have to relook at it and see what they want to do. I mean, you take the town of St. Andrews, which in the summertime is probably about 3-4 times as busy as that corner is, and they don't have traffic lights here in St. Andrews. So I think it might be a little bit overkill, and the cost is prohibitive to do that as well too. So.
Okay, so public safety is going to take a look at that.
That's
then.
right. That's right. Yeah. Councillor Lee, and we'll take another look at that.
Okay, and I want to talk about council opening up more meetings. You and I discussed this. Why? Why do that?
We've had some of the councillors, not all of them, but some have and I've always done what the councillors have asked me to do. If they want them closed, we keep them closed. But now they got to the point now, I think they're a little more comfortable. I think that you have to remember pretty much all of the councils, except maybe 1 or 2, are all brand new to this, and they're just trying to get used to working together and being open and transparent. So they get to the point now, I think they feel more comfortable opening it up to the public, and it's a time that people can listen to the discussions, and as long as it doesn't involve a personnel issue or a land issue or a legal issue, we can do that. But if we go into those issues, then we have to make a motion and go into a closed door. But we actually had one meeting the other day, and it worked out very well. We had to go back in and out a couple of times because a couple of things came up. We had to go in and out. And I tell the public, you're allowed to be here and you're allowed to listen, but you can't talk. You can't get in with the discussion of council. You can hear all the discussions going on, but you can't just be involved with it as well too. There's certain rules and regulations to it.
And there's a high level of civic engagement both in Eastern Charlotte, St. Stephen, and St. Andrews.
Yeah. Sure.
How do you think this helps the transparency of the doings of council?
Frankly, I think it's good. I think the more you have open to the public is good. I don't think there's any reason to close it. I do know, like, say, if a subject comes up that's kind of sensitive, then we'll go to a closed door, because sometimes councillors want to have strong feelings, but they don't want. They're afraid to say the wrong thing, and so they won't. So in other words, they won't say anything at all because they're afraid, because the public's there. So you want them to be able to feel free to talk. So I think we're at that point with the council now that they do feel free to be able to do that now, and say it's a good idea to keep it transparent, and people can see how we come to a decision. How we get to that point.
Okay, I want to look briefly at housing. Last time around, you were denied Housing Accelerator Fund.
That's right.
I wonder what the understanding is of housing needs in Eastern Charlotte.
We do need more housing in Eastern Charlotte. There's no doubt about that. Same as all across Canada. We do have some housing units. Some apartments are going to be built along Brunswick Street. I know it gets stalled out this year, but I had the person that was in charge of it come to me about 3 to 4 weeks ago, and they said they want the shovels in the ground as soon as possible, and these units are going to be built off-site and then brought in and then pieced together, and so that way they could be worked on all winter long, and all they have to do is the plumbing and the electrical once they get them set into that Brunswick Street area. So that is supposed to be happening. The owner of those buildings wants people moving in by July 1st of next year is the date that I was told. And of course, Habitat for Humanity, that house is supposed to be available in probably another 6 to 8 months as well too. That's going to be worked on this winter. So there are a few things happening, and hopefully soon some things will come to fruition.
Has council found it difficult to spur development in Eastern Charlotte?
I wouldn't say, well, it's difficult, but it's frustrating, very frustrating, because you have to remember we can't force anybody to build anything. We're not building it. All we can do is have incentives, which we do. There's an incentive money we put aside each year to help build these apartment buildings. Last year we put $200,000 aside for that. As of today, nobody has touched that $200,000 because nobody has started building anything yet. Some are very, very close to starting, but we're almost going into the next budget. So the next budget we'll have another $200,000, so we'll have $400,000 ready to go. So we do have money for incentive for people to build these apartment buildings is what we need for the area. And believe it or not, we have to do the incentives because these people can build these apartment buildings anywhere. They can build them in St. Steve, St. Andrews. St. Andrews is doing the same thing. They have incentives. Basically, we're in competition with each other, so we have to do it. And I know people get frustrated, but you're putting tax dollars into building these apartment buildings. Yes, we are, but we got to have them built in our area, and that's what we have to do that. So.
And does that money have built-in affordability measures, or?
There's they don't get the money until they start to build. They get one pot of money. They get part of it. Once the walls go up, they get more money, and then when somebody starts to move in, they get the third allotment of the money. So they don't get it all at once. They get it as they move ahead. And the idea is to have these things just built in our area. Yeah.
Okay. And finally, Remembrance Day is coming up.
Sure.
What is happening in Eastern Charlotte?
Yeah, in Eastern Charlotte, I'm glad you mentioned that because it's near and dear to me. People should remember that the people that fought in the wars is the reason why you and I can sit here today. It's the reason why we have a council. It's the reason we were able to have the system that we have today. And they fought for that. We have. This is the reason why we were able to live in such a great country. And so in Eastern Charlotte, St. George, Legion, and the Blacks Harbor Hall, the Stella Maris Hall down there, will have a service, and Beaver Harbor will have a service as well. There's 3 services going on at the same time on Remembrance Day. So I ask people to try to go to either one of those 3. It's very important to do that. It's even more important for people to go out and get their poppies. That's one of the most important things. People out there seem sometimes to forget. I'll be going to the Fundy High School next week as well. They're going to have a service in the school, so I'm going to be speaking at that as well too. So like I say, it's very important to me. I found out, and some of my family probably might be watching this. Quite a few years ago, I was the mayor of St. Andrews, and the local Legion came to me and said, "Did you know that your grandfather fought in the Battle of Passchendaele in the First World War?" And I said, "No, I did not know that." And a lot of the family didn't really know that too, because when he came back from the war, he didn't talk about it. He kind of kept it to himself, and that's what people did when they came home from the wars. And so anyway, they had it all in a book. His name described him 100%, but the Legion came and told me that. So. Had he not come back, I wouldn't be here today. He was a young man. He hadn't started a family yet. He was a young man, and then he started a family when he came back. So it means a lot to me that people remember the people that fought for us in the wars, and they put everything on the line. I say a lot of people didn't come back, and it affected those people too, the men and women that came back. It affected them mentally and everything else too. And they have names for that now, but back then they didn't. So it's very important that people don't ever forget that.
We're all grateful for their sacrifices.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
Thank you for joining me, Mayor.
I just got a couple more things, if
Sure,
I can.
if you want to,
This
yeah.
is very important.
Yes, go ahead.
Jimmy Tucker, I don't know if anybody remembers Jimmy Tucker or not. Jimmy Tucker was the MLA for the area over in our area. I'm not sure what the region was called back then when he was the MLA, but he was the fishery minister of New Brunswick. He was also the Speaker of the House in the province of New Brunswick under the Hatfield government, and he's very renowned. Everybody knows Jimmy, and he's doing very well. He turned 90 this week, and they're having a little party for him at St. Mark's Church on Saturday from 1 to 4. So if anybody has the opportunity to go to the church on November the 2nd, his birthday is actually the 1st, but they're having a little time for him on the 2nd. So I want to wish Jimmy Tucker a happy 90th birthday. Yeah, and I had a couple more things here I wanted to just quickly mention. Oh, Ian Lee. Ian Lee was elected and he's going to be sworn in this weekend. He's going to be our MLA, and so I want to congratulate him, and I want to thank Patty Borthwick too for running as well. We had two really good candidates, and Patty worked really hard, and I want to thank her for doing what she did, and I want to take the opportunity to congratulate Ian Lee, because Ian will be the person I'll be working with over the next few years, and he'll be working for us in Fredericton to get the things that we need for our area. So we'll be working very closely with them. So I think that's about all I had to mention today. Oh, paving. Paving, that's a big thing. When you're a politician, paving is very important. We did the Manor Road. That's all done. That's been completed. Right at this moment, the road, what they call the farm stretch going into Black Harbor, that's being worked on. It'll be completed by Friday, another 2 more days. And around the arena at the new Eastern Charlotte recreational complex, that's all being paved around that building too, to get all that fixed up again too, because it's in pretty hard shape. And we did rename the Eastern Charlotte recreational complex because we wanted everybody to feel that they own that building. We want to be inclusive. So no matter if you lived in Back Bay, or you lived in Bonnie River or Second Falls or Beaver Harbor, no matter where you live, you paid for that building, and we want people to feel that they own that building, and we want people to use that building, and it is being used quite a bit. So we're putting quite a bit of money into it continuously. It's always going to be it will never close, and we're going to keep it going and put as much money as we can into that. So this weekend too, there's a ball hockey court that's going to be all paved as well too this weekend. So that's all going to be done up as well. So we're quite excited about it.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. My guest today was Eastern Charlotte Mayor John Craig. I'm Natalie Sturgeon, and thanks for joining us.